So excited to be here today. Like she said, I work with Centerpoint, and I've been working there for about 3 years and absolutely love what I get to do. Not all of our clients are Christians, but the ones who are, I get to talk about Jesus in my appointments, and it's just wonderful. I love talking about Jesus. So, I also love speaking to Jesus. So if you could bow with me, I would like to start off with a word of prayer. Father, thank you so much for your grace and your love. Thank you for your truth that you have given us through your word. And Father, I pray that Spirit would fill this room. Thank you, Lord, and it is in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. I don't have a clicker, but next slide. All right, so starting off with scripture. This is Psalm 139, 15 and 16. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All in this world can be seen in everywhere. And part of our brokenness is that our brains, like this one, are also not perfect. And we can have chemical imbalances. We can have little pieces of the brain that aren't working quite right. And the results of that is mental illness. And I thought it was very, very important to begin this topic reminding us of that God created each of us just the way we are on purpose. And fun fact about our amazing brains is when we are born, we are not born with all of it. I don't know if you knew that. I didn't learn that until like 4 years ago. So this is the inside of the brain. There's lots of things there, but when you're born, you only have the purple part. Okay, just the purple part and your brainstem. That is all a baby is born with. The rest of the brain slowly develops until you're about 26 years old. So the young 20-somethings that are going off to college, they still don't have their whole brains yet either. Okay, they're still developing. And the purple part there, that's the part of the brain that is our fight, flight, or freeze responses. It's our emotional brain. It's the part that takes over when there's danger. It's why a baby cries when he needs something, because danger, I need something, this isn't right. And the emotional brain takes over and the baby cries, right? It's our survival headquarters. That's what we're born with. Now the rest of the brain is our logic, our reasoning, creativity, the ability to speak and move and play and jump and all of those other things. And that slowly develops over time. Next is a video I have, because once we hit puberty, so 11, 12, 13, depending on the child, some really cool things are taking place in the brain. And I just wanted to show this clip because Dan Siegel says it way better than I do. Pretty cool, huh? All right, next slide. So that was a lot of words. So let's recap just for a minute. So teenagers, their brains, right? They're getting all the stuff that's around the purple, right? All the stuff on the top. And what's happening is their brain is working faster. So their emotional headquarters is still the primary thing happening, still the primary, one driving the boat. But the brain works a lot faster. So the emotions come in, and then they're bigger. And then they're trying to use words and logic and reasoning to then talk about their emotion. But it's all happening so fast it can get overwhelming, right? And they're also specializing. So the brain is pruning. Remember, he said that a child's brain, so until the age of 12, you're just soaking in everything about everything, right? Kids are curious, they're learning everything they see, they learn everything they hear, they're kind of just pulling it all in, pulling all this information in. And then as a teenager, their brains are like, well, I don't need that information anymore. I don't need to remember how to tap dance. That I can put aside. I don't need to remember how to play soccer because that was not fun. Or whatever the brain is, whatever their interests and passions are, then their brain kind of cuts that out and makes room to continue to grow. The mind sight exercises that he was referring to is a lot of mindfulness. You may have heard of this. But mindfulness is being aware of your emotion, being aware of what's happening on the inside, and being aware of other people's emotions and what's happening on the inside of the people around us. So children can learn mindfulness, but their awareness of others is going to be inhibited because they don't have their whole brain. So children are very self-centered because of their brain development, and that's normal. But they can learn how to start understanding their own emotions. They can learn how to start recognizing and naming them with your help. And then as a teenager, they can continue to practice that and then start to look at others around them and the world around them. Okay, next. So this is how teenagers often behave because of this process. Like I said, over easily stimulated. They're also trying to fit in. As a teenager, they are trying to move away from home and become more independent, right? That's their pruning. They're trying to figure out what they're interested in, what direction they want to go to. And so they're trying to fit in with their peers at school. They're trying to figure out how to leave that safety net of home, if home is safe. If home is not safe, they're trying to find somewhere that is safe, that they can be a part of. But they are lacking tools because their brain is still developing. I'm going to say that a lot. But that's a really important piece. The Committee on Adolescent Health Care says about half of all mental health issues begin by around age 14. And this, anxiety, depression, ADHD, and OCD are amplified. Now, ADHD, if someone is with ADHD, that's usually very genetic. There's a parent with ADHD, the child has ADHD from day one. But in puberty, these symptoms are amplified. We see them more, they come out more. A lot of that is because of the myelinating of the brain. And these problems can be really, really shameful. And a lot of teenagers won't talk about them because they're shameful. And I have another video clip that really speaks to this that I want to do. So that stuff really happens. I've had a doctor tell me that. Oh, you take anxiety medication? We don't need to test your heart. Seriously? Not a good idea. So I want to challenge you. What are your presuppositions about mental health? What are your first thoughts that come into your head when you think of these words? Mental illness, therapy, depression, anxiety, OCD, bipolar, schizophrenia, ADHD. Each one of these words has a different connotation for everyone in the room, I'm imagining. We have different stories, different experiences. But behind each word is often a story, a whole person who is much more than just one of these labels. And so it's a challenge to look inside of ourselves and see, what are my presuppositions? What do I first think? And how can I encourage the teenagers I know, or the kids I know, or the adults I know who are suffering from some of these things? How can I encourage them in the relationships I have? So, Barbara is going to come up now and speak more closely about anxiety and depression.
Anxiety and depression are two of the big areas that really affect children and teenagers. It goes into adulthood as well. As we look at anxiety, we see that it's an intense, excessive, and persistent, if I can read it, worry and fear about everyday occurrences. You get anxious because there's something that you don't understand or you don't know. You haven't done it before, it's something new, and we get really, you can feel physiologically your heart starts to beat faster. You might sweat, get sweaty palms. You get more withdrawn. You don't want to be out in the public and exhibit these symptoms because, like Emily said before, there's stigma, like we saw in that little video, stigma with anything that is mental illness. And going to counseling used to be a lot more difficult for people because you don't want to tell somebody, oh, I'm in counseling. But, we kind of hide it. But our mental health counselors are there to help, and they really can work through some of the issues that people have, even if it's just anxiety about, whatever might be coming your way and something new that you're doing. Very young children, and we saw this tonight in the dinner time, have separation anxiety. And poor Lottie, every Sunday, Lottie just does not like the nursery. And she lets us know she doesn't like it. But that usually goes away by the age of 2 or 3, hopefully. It might go a little further, but hopefully she'll outgrow that and she'll be okay. And she'll play like I saw Evie and Oliver playing, and she'll join them. But right now it's scary for her, and she doesn't want to be separated from mom or dad. Preschool children worry about going to school. They might get a specific fear. This is the time when they think they're monsters in the closet or under the bed, and they don't want to go to bed. They don't want to go to sleep because they're afraid that something bad is going to happen. And again, this is a normal phase, and usually it goes away as parents reassure the child that there's no monster in your closet, or if there is, we'll take care of them. We're going to take care of you, and you don't need to be afraid. That's that safety net that Emily was talking about, that as children grow into teenagers and preteens, they want to separate from that and get away from their safety place. But they still want to come back, which is really neat because, you send your teenager out and you worry about them and you worry, and then they do come back and they want to be in that safe environment of home. If there's a situation where there's a move and the child has to go to a new school and meet all new friends, that's an anxious time, and they get very anxious with that. New situations and a whole new environment that they've not been familiar with. And it's scary. So again, we can encourage them to go ahead and experience it, but we're right there with them to help them. Anxiety becomes a problem when it starts to get in the way of everyday life. When the child can't really cope with normal situations that are going on. I have a nephew who is 16 now, but when he was like 8 or younger, he would have horrible, horrible emotional outbursts. And he was very anxious. He was always anxious. Thunderstorms just threw him into a frenzy that he didn't know how to handle. And he couldn't handle all this on his own. And it took a while for his mom to realize that medication might help. And she eventually got him on medication. And now at 16, he's a pleasure to be around. When he was little, we didn't want him around. He just disrupted the entire household. But now he's just becoming a very functioning young adult, and the medication has helped. So there are times when medication is important and is needed. Where do you start if you have an anxious child who's going through this separation kind of thing and the anxiety effects? Usually start with your MD, your general practitioner or pediatrician, and let them know that this is becoming a problem and the child needs help. Then a good, wise doctor will help you find the right professional. If the child needs some counseling and extra help, they can guide you to that. And we have counselors like Emily, and right here in Center Point, they can help, and they do help a lot. Okay. Signs of anxiety are irritability, tearfulness, and clinging. And we see that again. Just look at Lottie, and she won't let go of her dad or mom. She just clings really tight, and she's having some separation anxiety. Children going through anxiety are having difficulty sleeping. They may not sleep through the night. They may not want to go to bed, as I said before, and then they don't stay asleep, and they wake up and often have bad dreams. So again, parents need to reassure the kid and help them to realize that, we're here, you're okay, you're safe, and you'll be okay. Bedwetting, a lot of times with an anxious child, they'll regress to an earlier phase in their earlier childhood and babyhood, and we see some of those behaviors with sucking their thumb, wanting a pacifier, wetting the bed, these things that, these are outward signs that there's anxiety going on. For older children and teens, they lack the confidence to go out and do things with their friends. They kind of become withdrawn. And I know when you have teens, you see they want to spend a lot more time in their room, isolating themselves because they're anxious. They don't want to show these signs to their friends. Peer pressure is very, very important. And they're afraid they're going to be standing out or they'll be different. And, that's going to scare their friends away. So they will often withdraw and stay in their room and spend a lot of time alone. They have difficulty challenging or concentrating, and so you see their grades might drop. And a kid who was having good grades in elementary school enters middle school, and it's a whole new experience, and they're very anxious and get real nervous, and so they can't concentrate, and their grades start to plummet. So again, they need reassurance and help that they can get through this with counseling and perhaps medication. You can watch for changes in their sleeping habits. They may stay up all night and then want to sleep all day and not go anywhere. They just want to stay home and sleep. They may have eating changes. You see their weight either gain or they will lose weight. They will, you can see this is where anorexia and bulimia come in, and these are outward signs that there's something going on within the child or teenager, and they need help. They can't conquer this on their own. And again, it's very puzzling for parents, very concerning, and we want to know, what do we do to help this child and help them get through this awful stage before they do real damage and have real hard physical problems. Frequent angry outbursts, and I talked about that with my nephew, who just would go off the handle. Any little thing would set him off, and he'd just carry on and, as I said, be very, very unpleasant to be around. And I said to his mom that this would be helped by medication because he would become a much happier child. This is a child who's not happy. He doesn't want to do this behavior, but it's somehow the way he's programmed and wired, and that's how he is coping with his anxiety. Not the best way, but he has to be able to be worked through that. Again, feeling like bad things are going to happen. It's going to be disastrous or a catastrophe or something that might happen. And we all tend to worry. Of course, we're told that we shouldn't worry, that God says, cast all your care on me, don't carry it around. But what do? We carry it around, and we do worry. And children worry, and teenagers worry. And they are fearful that something bad will happen. Hasn't happened, and I think I like to say that about 99% of what we worry about never really happens, but we worry anyway, and we get ourselves into a frenzy of worrying about a situation or something that probably will work itself out. They avoid their friends, they avoid going out, and they avoid things they used to like and used to enjoy. And as they're growing up, as Emily showed with their brain, they're developing these behaviors that allow them to play sports, do things that they like to do, play music, whatever. And then all of a sudden, when they start to get anxious about it, they don't want to do it anymore. And they want to, again, hide in their room. So these are symptoms and signs to look for. Again, if they're excessive, check with the doctor and see where is help, where can I get my help, and hopefully work with the doctor. All right, how do we help an anxious child? We reassure them, help them to know that we're there with them. We can offer some solutions that they probably will say, that won't work, but we try to offer some solutions for them and help them. Keeping a daily routine is very comforting to a child, especially a child who has ADHD or has OCD even. It helps to know that this is what's going to happen, and they don't have to worry about new and different things, that we have a routine, this is the way it's going to go. And it's hard. In our day and age, it's very difficult to keep a routine. I mean, we're all so busy doing this and that, and even what we used to do years ago was have dinner around the dinner table together as a family. Well, now we're just so busy. This one has baseball, this one has gymnastics, this one has something, and we're running all the time. And so it's hard to keep a routine of some sort. But if you can do it, it really does help the child. We try to understand what they're feeling, and we try to talk about it, help them to understand their feelings, that their feelings are a normal part of growing up, and this is what Emily said, we were created this way, and we want to reassure them that they're not different from other people. They are unique in their own personalities, but they also are the way God made them. And we want to make sure that they understand that and that we can talk to them about it. Well, what made you feel that? What did you feel when you went through that or when you were there? And just help them process what the feelings are. Preparing children for anything upcoming. I know we're pretty good about that. If there's a new baby coming, we try to really, educate that the family structure is going to change. Even if, we move or there's a divorce or there's a new marriage or whatever in the family, it helps the young child know that this is going to happen. They don't have to fear what it might be like as they process this and go through the changes. They can talk about it and understand it. And it helps to know that, they can talk about it. And be aware of our own anxious feelings. And I think, as Emily said, we have to know our own limitations with what are we anxious about. Do we, and we do, transmit that anxiety to our children. We might not say it, but they can tell by our actions. They're very attuned to what our actions are, and they can read into a lot of our behaviors that maybe we're not even aware of. And so if, we find ourselves in a situation that we're not handling well, that's when we call Emily and get some counseling ourselves. Any questions? Anything bring to mind? Yeah, Josh? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think what I said beginning with the definition of anxiety, when it's pervasive and it really gets in the way of going out and doing whatever it is you're going to do, I think, we all have a tendency, if we speak in front of people, we're nervous about speaking in public, playing the guitar in public on Sunday mornings. Anything that we do can be nerve-wracking to us, and it can make us a little nervous and anxious, but that's normal. So it doesn't interfere. I mean, we still do it. But when it comes to the point where the child or the teenager won't do it, then we see we have a problem. And that's where the help has to come, to help the child. Yeah. Okay, good question. Any other questions? Anything else? Okay. Depression. Depression and anxiety often go together. Depression is, again, a sadness, pervasive, lasting. I think clinical depression is usually diagnosed if it's 2 weeks or more with the behavior of being sad all the time. Nothing is exciting. What you used to do and like, you don't do anymore. You start to withdraw within yourself again, and you have trouble with relating to other people. When you're depressed, you just don't want to do anything, and you want to hang out in your room and not deal with the issues that you have day to day. And that's when depression is, again, something that we need to address and get some help for. It's a major topic in counseling because it's so prevalent. And it has gotten worse. I think the pandemic made it a whole lot worse with people not having the relationships and fellowship that they used to have. There's isolation that we had when we had to stay home and quarantine. And it just makes everything a little bit worse. And you begin to feel sadder and sadder and sadder, and are not able to get yourself up and out of it. Somebody will say to you, well, just get up and do something. Well, when you're depressed, you can't. You can't motivate yourself to do it. And you just want to stay in your room and in bed and not face whatever it is that you need to do. So you can see that again, if it interferes with your daily work and daily living, then it's time to get some help. Start with your doctor. Let your doctor know that this is happening. And again, a wise doctor will walk you through it and help you to determine whether counseling will help or counseling and medication will help. Because there are a lot of antidepressants. And, again, people don't want to talk about that because that used to be very stigma producing. And, oh, I'm on an anti-anxiety or antidepressant. Oh my goodness, that's shameful. Going back to the shame, we don't want to talk about that and let people know that we're taking this medication. But when we need it, it's there, and it's a great resource and a great way to help us break through the depression and the depressive episodes that we might be having. Signs of depression. The child, again, becomes more tearful and irritable. That's kind of hard to figure out when you have a preteen or one going into puberty. They're always irritable. And they don't like to cooperate with most of what you do or say. But that's one of the signs that become increasingly irritable and or tearful. Then you have to watch out. It's a little red flag going up. The child doesn't want to do anything. Person doesn't want to do anything. Just leave me alone. I'm not feeling like being with anybody. And I want to just stay home and hibernate. Less time with friends, less time doing the activities that they used to do. And again, this is a sign we want to watch for. And if it becomes really apparent, then we need to seek some help for it. Same things as anxiety. There's a change in sleeping habits. Child may stay up all night, as I said before, want to sleep all day. Some of that's normal with teenagers. They don't want to get up and go out. They'd much rather sleep than get up and go to school. And, that's part of it. But if it's something every day, then we have to pay attention to it. Excessively tired with very little energy. And you can tell that when your child's been energetic and walking around, moving around, doing things, and then all of a sudden they just don't want to do anything. And you can see the difference in their activity level. That's a sign. Again, feeling like everything's my fault, putting the blame on me, that I'm no good, that self-esteem that comes into the child's life as he grows and as we all grow. And we start to feel very self-conscious that we can't do it right, and so I'm not going to do it at all because I just can't do it right. And I'm not good at anything. When you see the negativity and the avoidance, then you want to make sure that you pay attention to that. Difficulty concentrating, so again, grades will drop and they may need extra help at school. They may not want to do the work, and so we need to encourage them and find help for them to be able to cope and get through the work that is required of them. Then we get to the biggie of thoughts of suicide, suicide ideation, and attempts at suicide. Again, this has been on the rise, and I know I had some statistics somewhere, but in later years, especially after COVID, there's been a whole lot more suicide ideation, more people trying suicide, failing at it, which is a good thing, but attempting. And then I think I read 1 in 14 or something like that completes suicide. And so we need to look at the signs of what does it look like if our child is suicidal. One of the signs is they'll be more withdrawn. They'll start to give away some of their possessions. And when you see that, some of their things that they've really loved to hold on to, they're going to just let go and start giving away a whole lot more. Then you might be concerned that we need to address this before they do attempt and complete the suicide. You often see complaints of stomach aches and headaches. Again, this is the avoidance part of I can't go to school because I've got a really bad stomach ache or a bad headache. And you see this as a pattern every now and then, especially if there's an exam coming up or a test of some sort. They're going to be nervous and they may not want to go to school that day. But if it becomes a pattern and they start to avoid it more and more, then we need to address it and make sure that we get the help that we need. What's the danger of suicide? Here the statistic, a little statistic. Suicide has become the second leading cause of death among people between the ages of 15 and 24, next to, injuries and accidents and so forth. The recent COVID pandemic dramatically raised the average number of attempts, as I said. A lot of people will, if they're suicidal, they'll attempt it, maybe not complete it. And then 1 in 5 students will seriously consider suicide. And 1 in 14, there's the 1 in 14, will actually complete suicide. It's a terrible, terrible way to end. And, we usually try to tell a child who's suicidal with ideations that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And we have to be aware that, it's not the answer. It's not what God would want us to do. That with prayer, with guidance, with counseling, we can get over the issues that were leading us to the suicide ideation. And, that's a pretty dark place when a child or adult even is in that place. It's very dark, and it's very hard sometimes to get through that you really don't want to do this, because they really do. And the other thing is, if you talk about it and you ask if they have a plan, which is what we should do you have a plan to complete the suicide? People think that talking about it is going to make them do it. And, that'll just put more ideas in their head. Truth is, talking about it helps them get through it and work through it so that they don't complete it. And we want to make sure that they are able to move on from the episode that they were going through. If someone says they're considering suicide, these are some of the signs again. We always take them seriously. You don't want to try to talk them out of it. Oh, you don't want to do that. You don't really mean that. When somebody is talking about suicide, listen. Make sure you understand where they're coming from and what their plan might be. They might have a way that they're going to do it. Are they going to use pills? Are they going to shoot themselves if there's a gun in the house? And again, we know the gun issue in our country is horrible, and kids have access to guns, which is scary, and we want to make sure that there's safety. Ask about the plan. There are national suicide hotlines. There are some local hotlines. I think Maryland has a hotline. And, if somebody's really close to thinking about suicide, then we can direct them to the hotlines, which are well-manned, trained people on the other end who exactly know how to talk to a person who has the suicide ideation. Montgomery County. These resources are available. We have a table out in the lobby with books that you can look at, and you can order them if you want. And there are some resources that are written down with the packet that we've prepared, that you can each take a packet and have the resources right there for you. Again, any questions? Anything come to mind? A topic that you can't just do in 45 minutes, It's a deep stuff. Yeah, Pastor. It's hard to know. As I said, with our the time we're living in, we're always hurrying to get somewhere else, and we don't take the time that we need to talk to our children and our families and be able to discuss openly and have them know that the resource is really there for them to come to. We want to build relationships so that there's open communication between parent and the family, the children, and let them know, that whatever they need to talk about, we can talk about and get it out in the open. So I think the worst thing we can do is to hide it, and not talk about it.
I would like to add that safety is built with connection. And connecting with our kids. That means spending time with our kids, getting down on our hands and knees and doing what they think is fun. Carving time out, putting our phones away, putting our computers away, and actually doing life with our kids. I don't see a lot of parents doing that anymore. So I think that is another challenge for us. Because when we connect with our kids, we connect emotionally, but and they build this safety, safe attachment to us, that then that communication that we have back and forth from when they're little continues to when they're teenagers and then when they're adults. Like, they've talked to us the whole time, and that just keeps going because we're willing to get down with them and live life on their level, whatever level that would be.
Good questions. Anybody else? Yeah. I think understanding the feelings and finding out where's that coming from, what is bothering you, because obviously something's bothering the child, and so we want to find out what that is. How can we fix that? How can we help you deal with it in a better way?
Connection.
Yes.
Connection. Empathy is feeling with the other person. It is not fixing their problems. It is not rescuing from their feelings, but it's naming the feeling, understanding, and sitting there with them. And it's emotional connection in that. And that goes a long, long way. There's a book out there from Dan Siegel, and he talks about meeting the kid in whatever they're coming in. If they're coming to you with emotion, meeting them with emotion, bringing in the words. If they're coming to you with lots of words, meeting them in the words, and then bringing in the emotion to use the whole brain that they have. But it's connection. That's.
Yep.
Yeah. I find it hard to separate the two. Because the way God has created our brains, it's amazing. And when he talks about renewing your mind, and when we put science next to scripture, it doesn't contradict each other. And so renewing our mind, there's so much coming out now, the more we learn about the brain, how we can reroute our thoughts, our synapses in our brain. Like, if we have a reaction that's really, really strong and we've done it for our whole life, we can change the way our brain reacts to things and reroute those synapses. Like, we can really transform our mind. And the way that I have found that works the best is by uncovering the lies that we are believing and bringing in the truth. It's amazing. And so a lot of times we have negative reactions and we have negative behavior based on lies that we have understood as truth, but have never really been told otherwise. And that's one of Satan's biggest things. We see that with Adam and Eve in the very, very beginning. Satan comes in and he says, a little bit of truth. Did God really say that? Well, yeah, but did he say all of that? And then he mixes in a little bit of lie. But what he does the most is he leaves out all the important information. He didn't give Eve all the important information that she was forgetting. And that's what he does with us. And so we have these understandings, these things that we've learned from our parents, that they've just been passed down, the things that we understand, our worldviews. And a lot of times it's a little bit of truth, but it's mixed with a little bit of lie, but we're leaving out all the important details that's going to help us discern which one's the truth and which one's the lie.
Yeah, I didn't get into the modality of counseling with cognitive behavioral therapy. Again, it's your thoughts direct your behavior. And again, if you're thinking myths and distorted thoughts, your behavior is going to go along with those thoughts. So when you're in what we call cognitive behavioral therapy, the counselor helps you to identify where those thoughts are and what they are and why they're distorted, and try to get again to the truth and help you see that this is a better way for you to get through difficult situations, because you can change your thinking. When you change your thinking, you change your behavior. When you change your behavior, you change your feelings. They all go together. And it's an important method of counseling. So, okay.
Yeah, and that's my favorite part of Centerpoint. Every month we get together as a team and we talk about spiritual integration and how we do that in the therapy room. So, bingo.
Emily has business cards on the table out there as well, so you can reach her. And Centerpoint, there's the telephone number for Centerpoint on your card.
Yeah, the main number is the main number, and then my extension. So if you just take off my extension, that's the main number. The kids are our secretary. So. 26-ish, depending on the person. Mid-20s. It's mid-20s. So that's why I said depending on the person. I mean, it's not like a hard line. Just like puberty's not a hard line.